The Indiana Fever arrived at Target Center stripped down to the studs, half a roster dressed in street clothes and the other half taping themselves together just to make it through 4 quarters. You could feel the exhaustion before the ball went up, the way a team looks around the locker room and counts who's left, not who's next. Caitlin Clark, out. Sophie Cunningham, out. Khloe Bby, out. Sydney Coulson, out. Aari McDonald, out. 5 players gone, 5 rotations erased, 5 safety nets cut away. Odyssey Sims limped into the starting group anyway, the kind of veteran who would rather play hurt than sit healthy, because on this night the Fever needed bodies, voices, heartbeat, anything that could organize the chaos. And then the game began, and the chaos showed up wearing stripes. The first hint of the night's tone didn't come from a made shot or a defensive stand. It arrived with a whistle, the kind of whistle that doesn't just interrupt a possession, but rearranges the temperature of an entire arena. A tangle in the paint, an elbow thrown with too much freedom, and Lexie Hull hit the hardwood clutching. Her face. The slow motion replay told a simple story. Kayla McBride swung through, clearing space the way guards are taught to clear space, except this time the follow through landed squarely on Hull's jaw. The building inhaled. The Fever bench stood up. Everyone waited for common sense to arrive. Instead, the call came down on Hull. It was like the night rotated on its axis. A player takes the elbow and gets the foul. A team already robbed of depth is punished for daring to be in the way. The announcers didn't have language for it beyond shock, and social media did what social media does. It exploded into a chorus of disbelief, frustration, and the creeping suspicion that Indiana wasn't just fighting the Lynx. They were fighting the rules as written and the rulers who chose when to apply them. If you've watched this league long enough, you know there's physicality and then there's permissiveness, and the difference is usually carried on the breath of the next official's call. But this is where Indiana lives now, on the thinnest possible line between bad luck and worse timing. The injuries didn't just strip them of talent, they tore at the shape of the team itself. When half your guard rotation disappears, your offense becomes a maze of patched instincts. When your defensive stoppers are in street clothes, every closeout is a step late because the legs on the floor have already logged too many minutes. 2 nights earlier, Hull had played 37 high-speed, high-contact minutes and given them 23 points, simply because there was no one else to do it. That wasn't luxury, it was triage. She walked into Minneapolis knowing she'd likely do it again, aching and necessary, and then she took an elbow to the face and a foul on the same play. Stephanie White kept the sideline steady because that's what coaches do when the ground is shifting under their feet. She talked about spacing, reads, on time, and on target passes, the tiny seams you can still slip through when talent thins and chemistry has to be built in real time. She talked about instincts becoming the scaffolding for a team learning each other on the fly. It's the kind of pragmatism that keeps a season from tilting into self-pity. But even White, measured, disciplined, let a little truth slip. The physicality they're facing feels different now. Different as in disproportionate. Different as in our bumps are play on, their bumps are free throws. So Indiana leaned on whoever else could give them fire. That someone improbably was a newcomer still learning the names on the scouting report. Shea Petty, bags barely unpacked, plays still whispered to her on the sideline, stepped onto the floor and gave the Fever 16 off the bench like she'd been wearing the uniform all year. That's not coincidence. That's a pro answering a call in a room where calls won't stop coming. Petty's jumper steadied possessions that had started to wobble. Her poise gave Indiana something disguised as rhythm even as rotation shuffled and bodies tightened. It's the kind of contribution that doesn't headline a season, but saves nights that would otherwise drown. On the other end, Aaliyah Boston settled into the kind of work that never fully translates in the box score, but shows up in the film room every time a coach hits play. She walled off drives, absorbed hits, contested without fouling until the boundary moved and fouls found her anyway. She moved people backward with her shoulders and chests and feet, the geometry of a true anchor, and when a second defender sat on her left hip, she still found angles to squeeze rebounds out of traffic. It didn't need to be a 30-point masterpiece. It needed to be a chain that held. Boston was that chain. Odyssey Sims, taped and stubborn, toggled between creating and surviving. Aerial Powers, another late ad, fought for second chances in a system she's still learning. The Fever have become a team of duct tape and stubbornness, Sims, a rotating cast of now it's your turn that has somehow refused to cave even as the schedule keeps asking for more. This is what hardship contracts look like in reality. Backs of rosters turned into fronts of rotations, chemistry assembled mid-flight, and every opponent more than happy to test your seams. And yet, beyond the fatigue and the officiating, this game carried a different kind of electricity. A familiar silhouette moved in warm-ups. A familiar rhythm dribbled back and forth across the floor. Caitlin Clark, not cleared, not announced, but there. On the court and shoot-around, working with teammates. A presence that shifts a franchise's mood with nothing more than a bounce pass. For weeks, the Fever have lived without their organizer, with their spacer, their gravitational pull. Without Clark, every possession has required a little alchemy to produce a clean look. With her, the floor breathes. Boston's catches get deeper. Mitchell's cuts get sharper, the closeouts get longer, and the rotations get later. When Clark plays, the map of the court redraws itself in Indiana's favor. So seeing her in motion again, still sidelined, still day-to-day, but moving, felt like someone cracked a window in a crowded room. Stephanie White has been consistent. She wants full contact practice, endurance, and the ability to take 94 feet of bumps before she says yes to a return. No shortcuts. Not for a player who changes everything, and not for a season that's balancing on decimals. But the clock is real. After the Lynx, Indiana clung to the 8th seed at 19-18, a single game of daylight over the Sparks with 7 to play. The runway is short and there are no soft landings ahead. Seattle, Golden State, Chicago, Los Angeles. Every night feels like elimination. Every quarter becomes a referendum on what this team still has left in the tank. That's why the officiating stung more than usual. You can survive injuries. You plan around them, reimagine the playbook, count minutes like a banker counts coins. But when the whistle moves the goalposts, it starts to feel like the game is asking for a price you can't pay. The Fever drove into contact and met silence. The Lynx felt contact and met the line. That's not analytics, that's perception sharpened by repetition. Even if you believe in the innocence of bad calls, patterns make believers out of skeptics. And the pattern lately has been simple. When Indiana takes the hit, Indiana takes the blame. Still, comma, they didn't fold. Mitchell kept coming. Petty kept shooting. Boston kept grinding. Hull, jaw-checked, pride unshaken, kept fighting. The Lynx are too good to let you steal one with grit alone, and there's only so many times you can lift a boulder before your legs go. But the Fever made Minnesota earn it. They made them finish possessions. They made them endure the full weight of a desperate team playing with a season on the line. And when it was over, when the scoreboard finished its math and the box score codified a loss, you could still feel an undercurrent running through the night. This team refuses the easy exit. One is on the court, 5 against 5, whoever's healthy against whoever's next. The other is a battle against circumstance. Injuries that don't consult schedules, officiating that refuses symmetry, fatigue that hides in the lungs and the legs and the brain. You can see it in the way players look at each other after a call. That doesn't come. You can hear it in the crowd's immediate protective anger. Every team talks about resilience like it's a cliche. Indiana wears it like a bruised dot. And what do you do with a bruise? You protect it while you keep moving. You trust the next day will bring a little more healing than hurt. You lean into the parts of your game that require will more than rhythm. You control what you can control until the rest returns to you. That's why Clark's shoot-around mattered. It wasn't a box score, it was a promise. Not a guarantee of tomorrow, but a signal that tomorrow is in the room. When she's ready, when she can take the hits, hold the pace, survive the fatigue, she'll return to a team that has learned hard lessons in her absence. Mitchell has forged late-game habits. Boston has absorbed double teams and kept her poise. Hull has taken on oversized assignments and refused to blink. Petty and Powers have found footholds. Sims has taught the room what durability looks like. The Fever without Clark have learned how to carry weight. The Fever with Clark will learn how to distribute it. So let the footage roll again if you want. The elbow, the fall, the foul that made no sense. Let the debates run their course. Indiana can't afford to live in any single frame. They've got Seattle ahead, Golden State, Chicago, Los Angeles. 7 games and a season balanced on the tip of a whistle and the speed of a rehab. The road is narrow, the margins are cruel, but a window is cracked open, and the air on the other side is different. If you think the officiating crossed the line, say it out loud. If you believe the Fever can still carve their way into the postseason once Clark is back, plant your flag now and don't move it. Either way, don't mistake this team for fragile. They've been hit, they've been short-handed, they've been misread by whistles, and they are still here. Do you think the referees are out to get the Fever? Drop your take in the comments.